I'm Brent Blecha, and I left my home in Nebraska. That's where I was when I sold everything I had, and I drove down to Florida, and that's where I bought this little boat, had it hauled out, and I lived on it. A little over 4 years ago, I had something pretty significant happen. I had a friend pass away from cancer, and it was kind of a catalyst for me. Work suddenly kind of quit mattering as much. You start to realize, you start thinking about life and death and how finite your time on this earth is. And so I decided to go on a little sabbatical and go to Africa. I spent the majority of my time in Zimbabwe. I was going there to provide some support at a hospital for like AIDS awareness. They have a huge issue with AIDS, HIV positive. Before I got there though, the hospital I was working with had been robbed at gunpoint, and they'd come and stole some of the opiates, painkillers, that kind of thing. I ended up spending time at a school and in a village. Just spending time in this village was incredible for me. It's just so culturally different than middle of nowhere growing up in Nebraska or even Omaha in the city. But basically they lived in these huts. We helped build one of those there. They're made out of mud and kind of cow poop and hay, and they kind of smashed it all together, and that's where they live. They have one fire in the center, and about a dozen people sleep inside of one of these little round, it looks like almost like an igloo, but it's made out of mud. Probably the most impactful person I met was the chief of this village. He was 76 years old. He was telling me about the number of children he had, and then the number of sons. He had 15 sons, and 10 of which had already passed away they died from AIDS, right? And then the number of grandchildren he had were 23, and 17 of them were HIV positive. In conjunction with losing my friend to cancer way too early, and then staying with this tribe and hearing this story, seeing how little the tribe had, how little these people had it, and how happy they were. And they had a real zest, a zeal for life that I didn't feel in my own world. Zimbabwe is so different culturally. This one girl, she was so amazed, she wanted to put on my glasses because they're just not used to it. I had a camera I was walking around with. They all wanted their picture taken, and they were so anxious to pose for the camera and get in front and take photos with me and stuff. Because the amount of technology they had, that they even saw white people on television, let alone in person, let alone one that's there interacting with them, trying to helping out with the school or helping out in the village or just wanting to watch them dance. They really embrace me, right? They feed you, they tell you stories, they show you their dances, they try to get you to understand their jokes. I would love to go back to the village and just see some of these people, see how the people have grown up, some of the kids at the school and things like that. And I haven't heard if that chief from that village is still alive, but I'd love to see him if he is.